Hey guys, Deanna here from Hot for History, and tonight I wanted to talk about Harry and Meghan once again. I had no clue. I knew that they were producing things conceptually with Netflix and that their $100 million deal obviously meant that they would be producing things for the Invictus Games and they had an animated series. But a trailer and a teaser was just released for their Live to Lead series. It's a 7-part series that's going to be released at the beginning of the new year. And I was like, I had no clue. I feel like it's just this force feeding immersion into the Sussexes. I'm thinking, why can't you maybe separate, give us a time to breathe? Because if we're being real, we're going from all this press about Harry and Meghan's 6-part docuseries right into this book release with The Spare and right into the Live to Lead thing, which we can't even begin to sort of put our minds around. So I am a bit confused. I have an opinion on certain things just based on the teaser. I don't have a lot of information. I'm just really coming to you now because I like to hear what you're saying. I like to read the comments. I do want to let you guys know that I'm asking you to subscribe and to check out, my channel if you haven't. But I'm really excited because I've had millions, like over 2 million watch hours and about 112 million views on my shorts in 8 months now. And I just started to do lives and like maybe last week, and now I'm monetized, so I can do the super chats, I can do all kinds of things. So and thank you guys all for supporting me and for encouraging me to go live. And I will be doing longer form video at the beginning of the year. I don't have all of the equipment I need yet, which I will. And I'm actually in my Midwestern home rather than in my Florida home right now. So, I'm kind of working on it, but thank you for your support. Tonight's my first night going live with my full monetization with all of YouTube. So I'm really excited about that. But to recap, Harry and Meghan just released a teaser from Netflix for their Live to Lead series, which is going to be in 7 parts. And I really want to hear your opinion. I'm just going to spoiler alert for me, and then I'm going to read through things. At first glance, and this is not me, I will not get political regarding like my own personal views on things, but I feel like even the trailer was like, oh my gosh, they're like delving into way too political thing. And I know that the royal family doesn't like to express, kind of what sides they lean to or whatever, but I feel like they reveal too much of themselves, even in the decisions that they made with some people who are featured, even in the trailer or the teaser that they have out. So I'm going to just kind of go through some things. I have some notes. And again, just know that I'm sort of absorbing this because it's just today when I realized that this thing was coming out. I realized that they had a lot of things that they were executive producing coming out, but I feel like, because I have been in entertainment my whole professional life, that they need to pace this out more. Like it just feels like we're being force fed Harry and Meghan, and they go from this divisive thing with their own personal docuseries to heading into this aspect. And again, it's something that we all love, the idea of leading and being outliers, but they're doing it with very clear political direction. Yeah, and I will be doing my history. I will be doing my history videos here and some live, conversations for us to have. But anyhow, so they're releasing this new series called Live to Lead. And the trailer starts with Harry quoting this Nelson Mandela thing. He says, this was inspired by Nelson Mandela, who once asked, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. And then it picks up on Meg completing the thought when she says, it is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. And of course, we all can relate to that. Everybody can relate to that. And, the sentiment is great. The sentiment's great. But then, so they're producing this, I thought it was like 7 parts documentary, but it's, I guess, I think it's 7 parts, but so they go on to say our lives, both independent of each other and as a couple, have allowed us to understand the power of the human spirit, of courage, resilience, and the need for a connection. Through our work with diverse communities, with their environments, to shining a light on people and causes around the world, our focus will be on creating content that informs but also gives hope. So that is going to be kind of their focus. They want cause related. Content. I know that their docuseries was 6 episodes, but I think I thought the next one was going to be 7, with the Live to Lead thing. Okay, so then they were told that we all were told that it was $100 million project. It probably is closer to 200 million. But they say Live to Lead is about people who have made brave choices. And of course, what they're really saying is we've made brave choices and look how brave we are because we've done things that are so different and groundbreaking. And we want to align ourselves with other people that we consider groundbreaking. And our brand alone is do the hard stuff, break the mold, break out of the stereotype, break out of the institution. Again, things that we can relate to and many of us like, and yet the way that they're doing it is so questionable. And then also the other thing I'll say is even in their production with Netflix, like there are better choices in my opinion that they could be making. For example, even just pacing this out. Again, I'm kind of, in the middle with all of this. So, and then there's a tagline across the screen that says, their voices give us hope, their actions shape our world, their leadership. Give me a second here, because now I'm being cut off of this. The trailer basically is talking about the leadership of these people and again, same content. So they showed Jacinda. She had a different last name, but I think it was Ardern of New Zealand. And then they also show Greta Thunberg, and they show Gloria Steinman, and they show all of these people that clearly, we're talking climate change. We're talking about, these clear themes, which again, I'm not making a statement as to where I'm at, but I feel like if they're going to go so much into this political stuff, and you could say that it's subtle, but I don't think it's subtle. There's definitely not a balance in even the teaser. And my opinion, just as somebody who would be talking to somebody about branding themselves, again, would be, hey, you already created this divisive content. You may, with your own personal story, you may end up having a lot of people that really love that, but you also have so many critics. So let's smooth that over. Let's balance that out for a little bit. Let's let the smoke clear. Let your book have reading room so that people can have it. And then we'll release this other thing that now if you're leaning too far left or too far right or whatever, however you want to view it, then if you're creating divisiveness with people with the American politics after you've already done that in England, it'll be softer. It'll be kind of taken a little bit better. So I don't know if you guys are following me there, but that's the way I think. That's how I would say, okay, release that one a little bit later. Like, don't do it right away. So there's already, and here's when I say that there's problems in the way that they're even producing these things. So technically they're the executive producers, right? And we know in the previous docuseries, even some of the photo clips and the video clips were supposed to let us think that it was them, but it wasn't. For example, most of the press clips, one was from a Harry Potter premiere, one was from Michael Cohen when he was being, detained, or all the press was coming at him due to some Donald Trump thing, right? So now what we discover is that Jacinda over in New Zealand is saying, oh yeah, all of my clips are there, but that wasn't my thing. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern makes bold statement over involvement in Harry and Meghan new Netflix docuseries. Now we're talking about the Live to Lead, not the Harry and Meghan docuseries with their lives, right? So it's coming under fire already in New Zealand because Jacinda blatantly says that she is separating herself from the royal couple after being featured in the trailer. So what's happening is that, they're thinking, okay, I'm going to go from the Harry and Meghan docu-series 6-part into this new thing. But all of the Commonwealth, like the people who had any kind of involvement with the British monarchy, now are like, it's not the thing to be siding with Harry and Meghan. And again, I'm just telling you how I see this, what's happening, and how they could pace things out and do things a little bit better production wise, which then would reflect better in their press. So in other words, do you want to release Jacinda's image and her basically unspoken endorsement of you as a couple in a new video when she's claiming, I'm not really involved? This is how they got the content. So I'm just saying they need to be really careful about vetting the content that they're using. I know. I'll get to these comments in a second, but I agree with you. Okay. So she says that she's like, she says Live to Lead, which is released on December 31st. It's a Nelson Mandela Foundation project in collaboration with Blackwell and Ruth and Archwell. So the series, which is directed by this guy, Jeff Blackwell, and produced by Harry and Meghan, they're executive producers. It's based on iconic legacy of Nelson Mandela and features interview with high-profile leaders, including Jacinda. So, however, the Prime Minister's office issued a statement on Wednesday clarifying that her interview took place more than 3 years ago, and it was before Harry and Meghan were brought in as executive producers. So she didn't have full knowledge of what was going on. And of course, they wouldn't frame it at the time that, okay, this is you aligning yourself with Harry and Meghan, right? So in early March of 2019, the Prime Minister was approached by the Mandela Foundation to participate in a project to develop accessible resources on key attributes of leadership targeted at aspiring young leaders around the world based off of a 1-hour interview. So keep in mind, this was pre-COVID. This was there's been a lot of political stirring up since 2019. In addition, Harry and Meghan, like their whole thing, it's just crazy how, as an executive producer, which they are, like continuity and having things that are legitimately vetted are so crucial for your perception. So, so that's crazy. So originally we were advised the outputs would be printed and digital books, short films, and audiobooks. So she says Ms. Ardern's interview was conducted in November of 2019 and published in a book called I Know This to Be True in March of 2020. So and that was with the Mandela Foundation. They basically took footage from something that she did as a leader and a political leader with something totally else, extracted it, placed it in their thing, and then are trying to frame it as if this is all about her association with them and leadership. So, and even if, let's say, Harry and Meghan are just, kind of making their faces known as executive producers because it's going to help sell the stuff, it still wasn't fully transparent to the people that are in that series. And the other thing is that when you're in entertainment, because I've been in entertainment my whole life, you need to know, like, there are certain things you can sign off and give your approval for, let's say, certain distribution. But when there's a new project, usually, unless you've totally signed off for it, you need to sign on for it again. If they're reusing, they call it reprints or whatever, you can usually sign off on it. So it doesn't sound like that happened. So her office confirmed that the Mandela Foundation already had permission to use the interview, which meant Harry and Meghan were able to use it as part of the project when they stepped in. She says in May this year, the Prime Minister's office was notified that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex would introduce the series Noting this was nearly 2.5 years before the interview had been recorded and permission for its use by the Mandela Foundation had already been provided. So remember that all of a sudden now their docuseries is out and there's all this buzz. So that's important to know too. So all communication throughout has been with the foundation. There has been no communication with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. In a nutshell, Jacinda is trying to say, I'm sorry, I had no idea that I was going to be placed in this thing during this hot time when the whole world and any people in the Commonwealth or the previous Commonwealth is like questioning the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and all of a sudden my face is there. That's basically what she's saying. So in a nutshell, they're releasing the Live to Lead. Could be really great. We could all really like it. But I'm just saying that, in my opinion, as somebody who's been in entertainment and PR for a while, I think that it's lacking some wisdom on, number one, how it's released. This should like maybe wait till like, I would say February or March. We're being like we're gorging ourselves. We're having like we're being force fed heavy duty Harry and Meghan, and they could let things breathe. A lot of times the breathing room is just as important as the other stuff. So anyhow, I'm just saying, I don't know, but it's crazy. Okay, so good thing they're free and out from that cage. British media is crazy and it's intense. And we spoke last night about Jeremy Clarkson and the vile, disgusting things he said about Meghan, and with sort of this apology that had no I'm sorry or anything in it. He said some things that were so disgusting about Meghan. And that was the other thing. Even no matter how you feel about the couple, like, nobody should ever like say something like that about another human being. And he basically said she should be walking down the street naked and like people should be throwing shit at her, excuse my language. So that was very too much. And so the question is, on that point, is should King Charles III say something? I think even though they have this whole thing like we don't talk about it, which I'm really all about, like, don't talk about anything. I think in this particular case, they could say, look, we're not commenting on the series itself, but we will say that we would appreciate it if the press would back off on, like, the king could say my daughter-in-law on my family, like, just back off, really, because that was above and beyond. Okay, so let me just kind of bring in some of the comments. Okay, yeah, so here, I think that this, Diana, is happening a lot with them. I think, because of their name and everything, and obviously being royals, they basically can just cash it all in, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. They can just, like, even their 6-part docuseries, you could tell that they sat down like maybe twice. Like, there's just 2 different settings, said their thing, gave them some footage, or they got some footage, and that was it. So they're doing these things where they can show up. So there's probably this show, and something that sounded right for them or they wanted to do. And they're like, okay. And so they got their little sound bites with Harry and Meghan. Somebody else like produced it. They can executive produce, sign off on it. It's done. And so, yes, Jacinda would probably be, upset because she thought it was something totally different. I agree. So, Harry and Meghan did a great job slapping the British media and the media. Hold on, let me see what this is. Overall with this docuseries. So, yeah, they definitely, I think there was some truth to the matter of, she, especially with Harry having that background and the British media being so intense, I think there's truth there. And then obviously then this Jeremy Clarkson comes out and he's like, okay, they're basically proving their point because it was so vile. So, intense. But my thing with them is that, I love the monarchy and I like the royals. I don't think they're perfect. I think Harry and Meghan had some legitimate things to say, but on a personal level, like, and, interpersonal level, like with my family or other people, if I'm communicating to them, or let's say I have a goal, even if I disagree, I'm not going to even go to my other friends and go, you wouldn't believe what my brother said. They took that to an extra level. Like it's clear they didn't really want to resolve it, or they didn't know how to resolve in an interpersonal way. So either they're very kind of immature about how they communicate interpersonally, or they don't care. They don't care. So there is a way to have conflict even within your family, but still withhold that thing where it's like, I'm not gonna diss on my brother. I will stand by my brother. He's going to be king one day. We will hash it out. We will hash it. Like, I have friends and family that we will go in a room and we will hash it out for hours until we resolve things. And if we don't resolve things, we'll just try to figure it out how we're going to coexist. But it looks like they totally took it, to a whole other level. So yeah. So anyhow, I'm sure we're all going to watch it. I just feel like we all need a break. I feel like we need a little bit of time. I will get back to my regular content with my history content. I'll tell you what's coming up that just is cracking me up. One thing that I'm going to edit for a short, and I'll probably expand on that, is Queen Victoria, because we're going down the Queen Victoria route lately. There was a guy who he was 14 years old, and she was just 18 and just in the in the palace, new, like fresh. She was just, through her coronation. And this guy, they called him Boy Jones. His name was Edward Jones. That's my maiden name, by the way, Jones. He ended up stealing Queen Victoria's underwear. Like, this is the type of stuff I live for, like these little things in history that you wouldn't even think. And then years later, did you know that some of her underwear sold for like $12,000? Like a pair of underwear, knickers with like just slits in it. So I'm going to be talking about that. Exciting, huh? And I think my goal for the future with going live, because I do like going live, it'll be much, much better, is to really bring on some experts that know some of the content. If you've watched my shorts, I've gone, way back into talking about, Marie Antoinette, to talking about Benjamin Franklin, to getting into, the history of hygiene, to I have all kinds of content, even early film, Hollywood history. And so I like to run the gamut. And my goal with Hot for History is really to talk about history content that nobody talks about. And my opinion, because I do have a lot of people, and again, I'm not an expert, I'm just somebody like you who loves history. My opinion, from what I have studied so far on history, is that I don't want to say it's totally relative, but there's so much interpretation, just like the news that we're dealing with now. Like, imagine if all we would hear in the future would be like everybody who loved Harry and Meghan and didn't have the negative, like, so, or vice versa, everybody who hated them. So we don't really know the full story. So I feel a sense of freedom in being able to share these stories in 1 minute increments or even longer videos, because there is a somewhat room for interpretation, because that's what historians have done. So you asked me a question about where I sit on this with Harry and Meghan. Somebody asked me that. It's up here. So where do I sit on this? I feel I can see both sides in a way. I definitely think that they dropped the ball in how they handled this. I feel like they could have had their cake and eaten it too. Like, I feel like they could have had the entertainment side. They could have maybe dialed it in a bit, and they could have had their relationship with their family. I feel like they could have had their Frogmore estate and cottage and still a house in California. I feel like they could have said, this is how it's going to work. This is how we want it to work. And I know some people say that the Sandringham summit that they had was that, but I don't think so. I don't think they really, I call it reverse engineered and said, how can we make it work where we can still be serving you, but have some more leeway to tell a story. And then if you're telling the story, this is what we want to tell. We're going to talk about the press. I feel like they could have done that. On the other hand, I do think that Harry and Meghan bring up some really great points And I am kind of excited and intrigued about the fact that it is a new monarchy. We have a new monarch. It won't be the same as Queen Elizabeth. And I think the stirring up the pot, even though it seems so poorly timed because she just passed away, to me, it makes so much sense because anytime with a new monarch, it's going to be drama and it's going to be intense. And I also think all throughout history, and I mentioned this the other night, it's been like a battle. It's been bloody. The monarchs have been bloody. Like they've all gotten there from, we don't do things that like that anymore, but they all have happened because of brothers fighting brothers. And as far as press, that goes as far back as William the Conqueror. And this is going to make me sound like a nerd, but way back when William the Conqueror was trying to conquer England as a Norman with his people, he had his people go into Rome, get what they call a papal banner, which is like, the stamp that the Pope is approving you, so that when they started to go to battle, they would carry the papal banner to get the approval of the people in the village so that they would have more people to fight with them. So that's press. That's like going back as far as they can. And I think we're seeing it now. So I do, the romantic side of me and the side that I love all of the stories of like royalty and stuff. Like I love that. And I feel like Harry and Meghan have screwed up a lot. And yet there's a part of me that really appreciates that they're telling their story. And so anyhow, yeah, and this is true. Like, obviously, somebody had to stir up the pot. I don't think anybody has in a long time. Like, even Princess Margaret, like, she would have been one that could have stirred the pot really, really well. But she sacrificed so much to just honor her sister. And she just wanted to live sort of this free life. And that's another example of kind of, what's sad. So these things need to be brought out. Like, how long can they just go on sort of with the pretense and acting like nobody's stuff smells? You know what I mean? Like, how can they continue to go on like that? So somebody had to stir the pot. I don't necessarily think Harry and Meghan have done it really well, but honestly, sometimes change is dirty, it's gritty, it's not perfect. So anyhow, that makes me sound very much in the middle. I love Kate. I love Will. I love that whole thing. So I'm just curious, but I honestly can see both parts. I don't know why people freak out so much. Like that guy, Jeremy Clarkson, he definitely crossed the line. So, hold on, let's read this. So Camilla invited two people who hate Meghan to her party, Piers Morgan and the Clarkson guy. That's the story. Can someone verify? Yeah, I don't know. I can see that happening. But was that before? Like, was her party tonight? Like, was it after? I would think that they would uninvite this Jeremy Clarkson guy after that. I think they should. I think it would be a great move on their part, like beyond interpersonally, which they should just do this interpersonally for their daughter-in-law. But even publicity wise, we're not making any statements, but we are, we are in agreement of censoring Jeremy Clarkson. I think that would be realistic, and it would actually probably do very well for them, because they would say, I am, we don't necessarily agree with what's going on in the docuseries, but we will not stand for somebody slinging that kind of stuff at my daughter-in-law or our part of our family. But that probably won't happen. So, all right, guys, Christmas is coming. And I have company coming tonight, and we will be very, very busy, but I really appreciate you guys. Please subscribe. If you weren't here at the beginning of the broadcast, I did mention that tonight's like the first night that like my channel has had, like, in the past 8-10 months, however long I've been doing this, 112 million views. I had more than 1.6 million watch hours, but you have to get monetized with a different way with fuller videos. And so I just did that, which means I'm going to be able to, have a super chat. You guys can, share and give back to us. We have some goals, and we appreciate all of your help and support. And we will probably be coming live a little bit more actively after the very beginning of the new year, but I'm probably taking a break from the lives because the house isn't so huge and I'm going to have a lot of people here. I have a big family. So have a great holiday and thank you guys for everything. We'll talk to you soon.